only the metamorphosis of the characters, but you're going to be able to relate to this film, especially if you're another radio show host who uses forums like Blog Talk, YouTube, Winamp, Live Now, Live 365, which offer premium services and stuff. You're going to be able to relate to this in a lot of ways. One of the big things is the Radio Rebel character uses the alias Radio Rebel, covering up her true identity. And how many of you out there, I've worked with a lot of people on the radio through the years who use different aliases to cover up their true identity. How many of you cover up your true identity by doing a podcast or doing a radio show from your bedroom, or by using a premium service that Blog Talk or Live 365 uses? There are many people out there who are afraid to expose their true identity. I've not only met a lot of people on the radio who are afraid to expose their true identity, but I've met a lot of people who are very concerned about their identity in person too over the years. That's one thing that I've shied away from definitely over the last 13 years, is covering up my true identity. I came on the radio for the first time back in 1999 under my real name. Didn't use any aliases, didn't use any catchphrases or anything. Came on the radio as Jonathan Clarke. This is who I am. You can accept me for who I am, and you don't have to if you don't want to. The hell with you. But basically, that's the attitude that I had. While other radio show hosts who did shows on Blog Talk and back in the days when Winamp was the top streaming software that you could use, it still is pretty popular for shows that believe they have achieved some kind of syndication. That's one thing I definitely shied away from, covering up my true identity. I came on the air and I basically said, this is who I am, this is the format of my show, and this is the presentation and message that I'm conveying. Radio Rebel did all that for me, but the thing that caught my attention was the alias that she went under. The name of the film, of course, is her alias, Radio Rebel. The name of the character that portrays Radio Rebel is Terra, and through half the film, she actually did a good job of kayfabing her true alias. But that's something I don't recommend that anybody does when doing a radio show. I don't recommend that you cover up your true identity. If you're going to do a radio show broadcast using your everyday name and your everyday personality, do a radio show based on what your personality is really all about, what you really are all about. You can call yourself something, some kind of catchy nickname or some kind of catchphrase attached to your name, but please don't call yourself anything that you aren't. I've seen so many different people, call themselves things that they aren't. They've made Facebook pages, Twitter accounts, YouTube channels under these aliases. It really doesn't work. The best way to do a radio show is by broadcasting your show the way you want to broadcast it, but it doesn't mean that you have to change your perception of yourself, who you are. It's good enough, to call yourself who you are by your actual name with a catchphrase or some kind of nickname attached to it, but don't call yourself Todd Frizzle or Wacko Bob or something. Call yourself your actual name with a catchphrase or something like that. They're all wonderful people I've had the chance working with on the radio, but you really don't need to cover up your true alias. And that's one thing that I noticed Radio Rebel did through the course of the film. It was a 2-hour film that I sat down and watched. The version of the film that I watched was edited for TV with a couple of commercial breaks, more commercial breaks than I wanted the film to have. But one thing that caught my attention was, this was such a shy person. Once she got behind the microphone in her bedroom after school, she was, this incredibly opinionated person. The transformation the character would go under is unbelievable, but she would do it under this alias. And how effective would it have been if she would have went by the character's name Terra on the radio instead of Radio Rebel? If you have seen this film, let me know what you think of it by sending me a tweet on Twitter at ATW Entertainment Jonathan Clarke 1. You can join the conversation on our Facebook page at our new URL, facebook.com/ATW Entertainment. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com Jonathan Clarke 22. You can hear the show on YouTube and Twitter. I'll throw this video up. It'll drop in a couple of days as an archive on our YouTube channel, and it will be heard on our Twitter page, as many of our archives are. Past archives, where we talked about Debbie Ryan before in the past, can be found. We took a look at Sweet Life on Deck finishing up just last year. That was an emotional time for everybody, especially Debbie Ryan, who told Disney that she was never over. Sweet Life on Deck. But I really think Debbie Ryan has really come into her own, and the characters that she has on shows like Jessie and this Radio Rebel film are outstanding characters. She doesn't go too far away from the character she was on Sweet Life. She definitely maintains a very, similar image to the character, but she has this unbelievable radio voice which really gets across a positive message in the film, and I really do give her and her supporting cast members a great deal of credit. We're going to see more movies from Debbie Ryan, if not theatrical. We're going to see them premiere on television in due time for different companies like Nickelodeon and very well-known companies over the years. This company that produced this film wasn't that well known, but for the company that produced it, they did a fantastic job, and in my opinion, it should be up for a Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award. You can tell us what you thought of the film if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it, catch a repeat airing of it in the States or Canada. Additional information can be found on the internet. Debbie Ryan's been promoting it on her Twitter page and her Facebook. She's been promoting shows like Jessie, which she stars in, a show that's thought to be taking place in New York, but actually isn't shot in New York. And I saw an interview there this morning with Debbie Ryan actually on CW, and they threw out a couple of neat Debbie Ryan facts, promoted her show Jessie, and talked about the direction her career is headed in since leaving Disney Channel and Sweet Life on Deck. Definitely very different from what we've seen her do in the past. But it's nice to know that stars of Disney are leaving now and still having projects. You have Journey to the Mysterious Island, which is the sequel to Journey to the Center of the Earth, and that's had a tremendous following for itself, with Vanessa Hudgens and Dwayne Johnson doing the majority of the promotion on shows in the morning, on Twitter and Facebook too. So it's really cool, and it's a good movie. I think everybody is going to enjoy this. Debbie Ryan plays such a strong character in this film that goes through a very noticeable change from the beginning of the film until the end of the film. A lot of movies being released nowadays about high school proms. Disney just recently put out a movie called Prom, where the prom is the main focal point, of course, of a lot of different scenarios in that film. And we just saw Radio Rebel, of course, with a prom theme incorporated with that. We had Victorious not too long ago in Season 2 making their own version of a prom. Their high school, Hollywood Arts, had never had a prom before, and then they make their own adaptation of a prom by calling it a prom. You'll find that in Season 2 of Victorious. You can download it on the internet, or if you've seen it, let us know what you think of that. A lot of prom films coming out with a prom theme nowadays. We're going to see more of that released in the coming months too. But it's going to be a big summer for Hollywood, not only on television, but theatrically as well, with films like The Avenger, Woman in the Black Dress. Those are all films that are going to be expected to drop over the next couple of months. It's going to be a real big month for theatrical releases and TV too. Seems like films that are made for the purpose of television nowadays get over quite well. It started back with Camp Rock 2, it went from that to movies like Lemonade Mouth for Disney, and now Radio Rebel really taking over. Not so much music in this one, although there is a compilation at the end of the film dedicated to Debbie Ryan by her high school crush that asked her to the prom. By the end of the film, everybody gets what they want in this film. That's a big thing. Nobody goes home disappointed. Not too many musical compilations in this one, because Debbie Ryan is very limited when it comes to musical talent. But despite not having very much music into it, it had a great soundtrack and it had a great story behind it too. And I really do give this one a high rating, 9 out of 10 stars, taking a couple of stars off for a few little minor things in the film, not major things. A couple of characters I would like to have seen have bigger roles, like her friend could have had a major role in the film. Her heel character that hated her in the film could have had a major role, but didn't. A lot of characters in this one didn't have major roles, but it was a good story behind it. And like I mentioned, you'll find the movie starts off really slow, but as the film progresses, it gets more interesting with time. By the top of the second hour, you're more into the film than you were at the beginning of it. So I think that you will really enjoy this. Social networking definitely is talked about and emphasized on a lot in this one. Twitter and Facebook get a couple of pops in there. And I think that once it drops on Blu-ray and DVD in a couple of months, it's going to sell well. Because Debbie Ryan, of course, is the main actress in the film. She had tremendous success in shows like Sweet Life on Deck. She's having tremendous success since the premiere of her show Jessie, a show that takes place in New York but really isn't shot in New York. And during that interview I saw this morning, actually, she mentions a couple of projects she has coming up. So we have a lot to look forward to When it comes to Debbie Ryan, you can check her out on internet websites like IMDb and her official website, and Twitter and Facebook also to keep up with everything she's doing. I'll follow her and like her on our Facebook page and Twitter accounts in the next couple of days. But Radio Rebel, a great film. I could relate to it more than often. There were a lot of times in that film when I was watching it, I thought that, radio show hosts like myself and people I've worked with in the past definitely inspired this film because I could relate to it from the beginning of the film right until the end of it, right up until her identity is revealed for the first time. And, a lot of people accepted her better than she thought initially they were going to accept her. I could relate very often in that film. Everything from the Alice, covering up her true identity, to being a shy person off the radio, and the transition she made from going from a radio show that was produced in her bedroom by playing a couple of music tunes via a software like Winamp or YouTube, to a syndicated radio show on Slam FM. The transition she goes through, her character goes through, from doing a show in her bedroom where she could pretend like nobody was listening to a radio show that's listened by thousands of people, is absolutely phenomenal. And the premiere of her first show on syndicated radio